Welcome to today's live stream. We're really glad you've chosen to be with us. Just a few things before we get started. If you haven't already, please introduce yourself and let us know where you're tuning in from using the chat window. Now, the chat window is also a great place to interact with others who are on the stream today with you, so feel free to respond to anything that others post just by clicking the reply link underneath their comment. Lastly, we want to make sure that we help you with any questions you have, so you can drop a question in the chat window starting right now. We'll pause a couple of times on the stream to answer any questions that have been asked. So again, thanks for tuning in today, and we'll get started in just a bit. Welcome everyone to the Accelerate Your Consulting live stream. I'm here with Chris Ediger. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing good. It's been a good start to the week. I can't believe we're at September already.
I know, this year has dragged by and it's gone really fast.
I know. I mean, I have to admit, I told someone on a coaching call, I was on a coaching call right before this, and I was telling the client, I said, normally I love fall anyway, so I get excited when I see September, and you know, I'm a pumpkin spice latte guy and college football and cooler weather and normally bonfires, that kind of stuff, football games, which can't do all that. But I don't know. There's a part of me that seeing September 1st just reminds me that 2020 will end at some time soon. We will get past this year. So
we will, but wow, something to talk about with our grandchildren someday, you know.
I know.
Funny. Yeah. So
remember when. So
yeah, remember when. And there's been so many blessings inside of it, even though it's been very strange and mixed up, that I'll look back with some fondness during this time.
So, yeah, absolutely. I think that's good. Well, hopefully you're having a good week so far. I'm glad it's Tuesday. It's been a good start. I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be a good meeting today.
I agree, and I'm excited because I know today is kind of a personalized story from you, so I'm excited to hear about that and let the rest of the world hear your story as well. But just a reminder, everyone, if you're new to us, this is Chris. Chris is our Director of Partners. He is all things consultants and what we call guides are some of our people here within our organization, and so we're just really glad you're here. And Chris, thanks for sharing your wisdom with us once again. And I'm Tracy. I'm the Director of Implementation. So if you're here today and you haven't shown up in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. I see that Mark is here from Hollywood, Florida. Joanne, thanks for coming. She's from Los Angeles. So everyone, just make sure you tell us you're here, where you're from. We love to know that you're with us. So and at any point, if you have a question or a comment as Chris is talking or teaching us some things, feel free to put those in the chat. We've also got folks from LinkedIn and Facebook with us as well. So same with you guys. We'd love to hear from you as well. So Chris, start us off. What are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this. This is something that we shared a little while ago with our guides and consultants. And I love this because it's a little bit of my story, my consulting story, and what I think are some of the best truths when it comes to building your business is actually taking and learning from the mistakes that you've made, right? Or learning from your own growth. In fact, that's a key factor of what we do with our own certified consultants and coaches that are getting trained on our material, or those that are full-time consultants within Giant. We have a lot of opportunities for them to share stories with each other because those tend to be some of the greatest learning opportunities. So my hope is this. My hope is that you'll learn from some of the tougher experiences that I went through as a consultant. That's my hope for our time today. And Tracy's going to be hanging out in the chat room. She'll watch anybody that's on Giant, or if you're tuning in from UK, we see James from the UK and Greg and Ryan from all across America tuning in from LinkedIn, or if you're on Facebook, She can see all of you and she'll be interacting with you. We will pause after a while and answer, we'll address some questions. But let me share a little bit about kind of where I came in. Now, my consulting story is one that was born out of necessity. And I think that this is something that may actually resonate with some of you tuning in today. I was laid off from my job 6 years ago. I'd been with the company for about that long, about 6 or 7 years. It was somewhat unexpected. I had already kind of thought about whether my time at this organization was kind of drawing to a conclusion, but that decision was made for me. And if you've ever been in a situation like that where you've been laid off, one of the things when I was receiving some coaching through that process, I was really trying to consider, am I going to go work for somebody else? Which honestly is a little bit a hard thing to do when you've been laid off, because there's a little bit of a stigma feeling like, do I want to put my livelihood, do I want to put my family's livelihood in someone else's hands? Or do I want to, I had some entrepreneurial inklings. Do I want to go out there and do something on my own? And I began coaching and consulting. Now, part of that was leadership. I've been in the leadership space for a while. There's also technology. I've got a technology background, and so I did technology consulting for about 5 years. But it was all born out of this place of something I had to do. And the first year or two were very, very difficult. And I don't think this is unique to me. I think this is in particular anybody starting a business. And I forget what the statistics are now, but there's a good percentage of them that don't even outlast the first year or a few years. And I certainly experienced that. But I think when you're consulting and when you're starting a consulting practice, it's even a lot different there, especially if you don't have experience in doing that kind of world. And part of my kind of vicious cycle that we'll talk in more detail about in just a minute was that I was either in this moment of feast or famine. It really was that. I was either really, really stressed and really worried and anxious about whether I was going to be able to make ends meet and land enough clients and business to be able to meet the needs of our family, or I was overworked. I was literally kind of overwhelmed by work and didn't have a care in the world except that how am I going to actually deliver on all this stuff that I've sold? And for me, that was a cycle that was really gut-wrenching in many ways. And for me, there was one thing that changed everything. And I think literally, if you could have taken a snapshot of my consulting story and starting a consulting business from that first year, especially, you could have rewound the clock to, let's say, June of 2015. And if you would have talked to people around me at the time, you would have heard that me sharing things like, I just don't know if I can keep doing this. I think I may have to go find a job. And it literally within 2 to 3 months after that moment, I was having a very successful growing consulting practice that I really haven't looked back on since then. And I'm going to share today what that difference was. And hopefully it's something that, regardless of your involvement with Giant, it's something that you could actually hang up the call, so to speak, today and really take away some things that would benefit you in your consulting practice. Here's what I know, because I literally work with consultants 24/7 all over the world. We have consultants that are certified in our content and our tools and use our technology with clients literally from Australia to Kenya to the United States to the UK. And this story of what I found myself in that cycle is one that should be very familiar to many of you, right? Because you're in that place where the cycle for you is you stress or you're anxious about, I just don't know if I can cut it. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have what it takes, or I don't know how to land the business. I'm no good at sales. I hear that all the time from consultants. I stink at sales. I don't like business development. And so there's this stress around, how am I going to acquire the work? And so then you sell fast, and you sell hard. And for me, that cycle was very project driven. Most of what people were hiring me for was, I need you to do this thing. I need you to come in, like from a technology perspective, come in and implement this system, or come in and build out this thing. And so I had very finite start and end dates with pretty much 100% of the work that I was doing for those early days. And so I was selling it because that's what I felt comfortable. It's like, I know how to implement that system. I know how to deliver that objective or that project. So I'll just sell that, right? I'll come in and lead that project or deliver that build out. And then once I landed the work, then I was serving those projects. I was in the midst of working on them. The problem with that is that when you have a finite end and a finite beginning, then you start to see the horizon, if you will, as you kind of get through this and you're getting toward maybe a month out from a project ending or even sooner, and you start to stress again because you start to go, oh my gosh, now I need to go out there and land new business and do more. And then you sell frantically, usually the same kind of thing, projects. And then you land the business and you serve. And it's this ongoing vicious cycle that is very, very difficult to be able to maintain, especially to grow a growing, sustainable consulting practice. Now, I want to talk about how to break that cycle, because that's what changed for me. When I moved away from this cycle to this new cycle I'm going to show you, it's what made all of the difference. And the new cycle is this. It starts with measurement, because what I realized is you have to work from reality. And what I had been doing previously in the old pattern of things is I had been guilty of doing one of two things. I've been guilty of coming to a new client already convinced that I knew what they needed because it happened to be the thing that I did. And so I was trying to sell them on a product that they felt like I didn't know if they needed it or not, but they needed me and I needed to sell it. So it was either coming from me, or in some cases, I was wholly beholden to whatever the person was that they said that they needed, whether that was reality or not. And so what happened a lot of times, I was doing projects that, I was selling something they didn't need, or I was delivering a project that they had introduced and hired me for that wasn't the real issue. And I didn't realize that until I got in. So I started measuring, because you have to work from reality and from data, and to be able to track where you need to go. Now, once you know what that is and that data, that's when you design. And so you start to figure out, how do I create something that's bespoke to that organization? It's really individualistic. It's not that I'm reinventing the wheel. I may still be delivering and plugging in things that I have confidence in, and projects or competencies or tools that I know, but it's designed to fit the real needs that we've measured in the organization. And then once you do that, you deliver on the solution. But it doesn't end. Unlike this finite linear start and end, all the work that I started doing and I do now is completely cyclical. It was going, I'm gonna come in and we're going to see exactly what the needs are of your team. And then we're going to build something that's designed to meet your needs, not this cookie cutter of what's out there, but actually for what your needs are. And then once we do that, we're going to deliver and we're going to work. But what I want to do is I want to come back and I want to reassess. I want to come back and remeasure, because I want to make sure that what we're spending our time on every 3 or 6 months is actually delivering on the goal. And there may be new data that we need to take into account, or something that we're delivering isn't quite hitting where we need it to go, and we need to redesign a little. We'll tweak the design, introduce new things, and then deliver the new plan. And then you go back and reassess and redesign and redeliver. And what that does is it positions you into a place to become a trusted advisor versus someone who's just delivering a product. And that's where the momentum shifted, because all of a sudden what had been 3 to 4 month projects max in a lot of cases is now to where I just hung up. I was on the phone with someone this morning from a year 3 client. And that momentum changed to move away from projects to more of a retainer-based mentality that I think is really the only way to successfully grow your business. Now, I'd be remiss to not say how we're built to be able to do this, because this is why I work with consultants on a day in, day out basis with Giant, because the products and the content and the tools and the resources that we developed is designed for this cyclical, ongoing work, relational-based consulting that is longer and it's deeper. It allows you to actually have greater impact, and in almost every case allows you to lengthen the amount of contracts that you have, so that you're actually staying with a client longer, which is getting you off of that rat race, that wheel of just having to sell over and over again. Now, Invincible is one of the products, just to give you an example. What you're seeing is a screenshot from our Invincible product. It's something that is a tool that our guides and consultants can use to go in and measure objectively the real needs of an organization. So if I zoom in a little bit, these are the metrics that we have found working with organizations for decades all over the world that are common. High productive, healthy teams encompass health in 5 key metrics. One is communication, relationships, alignment, execution, and capacity. And we have an assessment built into the platform that you can actually go in and anonymously measure the real needs of the team around those metrics. Now, the reason that that is so important is if we're talking about measurement, it does several things for you. One, it actually creates an awareness of needs. How many times have you had conversation with someone and clients or potential clients, and you recognize what they need, but they don't see it, or they think things are better than they really are, or the leaders say that things are going well, but the employees say something differently? That happens all the time because most leaders don't have an honest assessment of what's really going on under the hood, so to speak, within their team or organization. So it gives you objective data to actually go, hey, you actually do have some areas that your people say that we need help growing in. The second thing that it does, in addition to creating an awareness of needs, is it gives you, the consultant, the direct areas of most needs. So all of a sudden I'm going into a client and going, well, I know execution is where they need the most help, and then capacity closely after that. So it gives me pinpoint areas to know how to actually help them grow in those areas. And then at the end of the day, it does something that I guarantee you is very, very difficult for you to do, especially when you're talking about a services-based industry, especially something like what we do with this, which is leadership and leadership development. And that's prove return on investment, prove ROI. Because let's just admit it, when you're working with an organization in a field like leadership like we do, the only real ROI that we have a lot of times is someone says, well, Chris isn't as big a jerk as he used to be. He's a little bit better as a leader, so I guess it's helping. But it's just this very subjective judgment. And if you've got a leader in particular that looks at that and says, it doesn't feel like it's moving the needle because it's a subjective thing, then you're not going to last with that client for very long. You're not really going to be able to help them. So by this, it gives you objective data to be able to say, actually, you know what? We used to be at a 65, but because we've been working on this very intentionally over the last 3 months, we've raised that to a 70 or a 75. And all of a sudden you can show, hey, the work that you're putting in, first and foremost, and the money that you're investing into me and what we're doing together is actually moving the needle. It's actually making a difference. And that's what helps you to be able to move all the way over into that space of being able to measure, design, deliver, and repeat and get into that routine. I'm going to pull Tracy, if you'll come back in. I'd love to answer questions. If you guys have any questions, and just pop those into whatever chat you're on right now.
Yeah, so Ryan here he's from LinkedIn. Do you use Invincible as part of your sales strategy or only with current clients?
Yeah, no, I do both. Now, Invincible's a fairly new product, so it hasn't been around for 3 years. So the clients that I've been working with for 3 years, we're figuring out how to incorporate it. But we actually tell and teach consultants all the time, hey, the system is designed to make it really easy for someone to come on board and to tune in to great content like this. You don't have to pay anything to get this webinar, this live stream once a week. So they're getting value out of it, and it steps in. They can actually do a trial of Invincible for 30 days if they go through a consultant or a guide. If you just go on the website by themselves, they can do the same thing, but I think it's like 2 weeks is the trial. But if you're one of our certified guides, you can actually give an extended trial to someone for longer. We do that all the time. So what I'll do, I've got someone that I'm scheduled to have a conversation with next week. We talked last week. They heard about us from somebody else, another existing client. We talked a little bit about Giant. I got them onto the platform so that they could experience some of our content and tools. And then next week when I talk to them, I'm going to move them into Invincible because it's free. And so to say, let's get in there. Let's actually do an assessment. And then what I'll do is for free, I'll go through the results with you and I'll tell you where I think I could help or where Giant could help, right? And so it just positions you to actually be able to sell in whatever it is that you're doing with your clients. So the answer is both, but absolutely you can use that with for new clients as well.
Yeah, kind of to piggyback on that then is Joanne's question about how often would you recommend an organization go through the team assessment?
Yeah. So this is it's got to be long enough that you've actually done the work to affect the change, but it's got to be short enough that it doesn't feel like you don't want to get too far down a road and then all of a sudden understand, oh, well, the real need now, because of something that happened in the midst of the last few months, we haven't been able to address it. So what we found is Invincible as a product will actually prompt your team members to do it every 3 months. So they can take the assessment. Once they do that, it will pop back up on their dashboard every 3 months because we feel like that's a good minimum. I usually encourage consultants, depending on what they're doing with their clients, to try to reassess every 3 to 6 months, which, by the way, actually helps you to sell, because I don't know how many times I've been in and I've been able to tell potential clients, hey, here's what I think that we should do. Like, based on where the real needs are and where I know that I can help and we can help, I really have seen the best success from consultant or from clients that have been together for like a year, that we've been doing this process for 12 months. But I tell you what, let's build in a checkpoint 3 months in or 6 months in to evaluate if it's really moving the needle. And if it's not, I don't want you paying for something that's not actually delivering. What I know is that our content actually delivers. So if it's behind Giant and our consultants and the content that we're doing, I'm not worried about putting a 3 month or a 6 month checkpoint in there, because what I know is if they're doing the work, it will absolutely move the needle and make a difference. So it actually allows me to sell a 12-month engagement retainer with a kind of 6 month, not money back guarantee, because I'm not giving them their money back necessarily, but it's a 6 month out or a 3 month out, which is really helpful as well. But I would say minimum 3 months, probably maximum every, you don't want to do it any longer than 6 months, probably.
That's really good. So your story is really ringing true to people in the chat saying, yeah, sales is not my thing. I've been there, done that on the stress level. So quick personal question, if you don't mind me asking, do you still feel that old cycle where you feel the stress and or has this new cycle kind of eliminated some of that?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to say like I'm stress free, because I don't think that's accurate, but here's what I do know. Like, it literally in the old cycle, so to speak, the way I used to do it, it was like every 2 to 3 months, I was just living in fear in a lot of ways, anxious, because I didn't trust my sales competency, and hadn't been doing it long enough to feel competent at it. And so, it happened a lot. Now my clients are much longer. Like I hardly ever have anybody that I'm not walking alongside at least 6 months to a year, because they find the value in it. So the stress doesn't come as often. But I tell you what, I mean, the longer you do it, the less stress you have, because I know my competency. Like, I know what I do well and what I don't, and I'll be the first to admit it. I know what Giant does well. I know the best way to be able to engage with them to get the most benefit for them. So I don't shy away from that. That's why I'm able to come in and say, no, you really need to do this for 12 months. I mean, I tell you what, every single new client to a T, when we start out and I'm kind of laying out what we're going to be working on for the next 12 months, let's say, I tell them every time, look, if we get to the end of this 12 months and you didn't find the benefit that you thought you were going to get out of this, it's not because of me. Like, that's how confident I am in me and really in Giant, because I'm like, I know it's not our fault. I'm going to do my part, but you've got to own the process. You've got to put in the work to be able to do that. So I don't have as much stress. No, I wish I was stress free, not quite all the way there, but it's much, much easier these days.
I love it. It reminds me of like high school teachers, they're up there just doing their job, doing a great job. And then they, hey, it's not my, I'm up here working hard. So you have to put in your part. So that's really good. I was going to remind those of you watching, if you're new to us, that if you don't know what we're talking about as far as Invincible or even our platform that we work from here at Giant, there's a free, for anyone in the world, you can get on our giant.tv/free account and you can sign up for what we call Ascend. It's just full of resources and things to help you work on your leadership skills. But then from there, you can learn more about the Invincible product that we also have to offer.
Yeah, so. Literally, we're talking It's probably 1,000 videos now. I don't know if we lost count, but it's easily pushing 1,000 videos, countless pathways, live streams almost every day,
Yeah.
resources. I mean, there's so much great stuff that's on there for free.
Yeah, totally. Um, let's see, we've got one more comment here or question from Ryan. How do you explain what you do to someone who's unfamiliar with the coaching / consulting industry? What is your elevator pitch?
Yeah, so I'll talk about mine just because I do represent Giant, and so it makes it a little bit easier because my elevator pitch is Giant's elevator pitch, and that is I help unlock the potential of people. That's what Giant does. Giant helps unlock the potential of people, because the reality is this: when you're trying to grow a business, there's a lot of things that go into that. There's capital conversations, there's strategy conversations, there's people conversations. And in my experience, people is the area that doesn't get addressed near as much. Plenty of attention, time, money, resources are given toward the ideas of strategy and capital. And usually the only time that people invest in people or pay attention to people, which I think is your greatest asset as an organization, is when things are blowing up. When things are bad, that's when all of a sudden people get very interested in what do I do to be able to help people and grow people. So for us, we unlock the potential of your people because you likely already have great assets at your disposal. It takes a little bit of intentionality. I think for me, just in the idea of coaching and consulting, to be able to come alongside someone, I tell you, a great sales pitch that really helps in your industry is what I often tell people is, look, you get the wealth of my experience and expertise without having to have any of the overhead. So whatever you're going to pay me as an ongoing retainer in the work that we're going to do together is going to be far cheaper than it would cost to actually hire me to come on to be a part of your team. And so that helps a lot of times frame the concept of, I'm really like a lot of my clients, especially now, year 2 and 3, they treat me like employees anyway. I'm like a team member. It's just they don't have to pay for my health insurance. They don't have to, they don't have to pay me what I'm probably worth to actually be on the team. I can come in and work with them on a limited basis at a much cheaper level to be able to do that. Now, I would say also any kind of consulting you're doing in the people world, anytime you can talk about it's kind of like the $1 million problem that companies have. I forget what the exact metric is, but the cost, the opportunity cost that happens when there's unhealth in a team or an organization, coupled with the real cost of having to hire people, to train people. For every 5 people, I think the statistics say that's about $1 million mark or expense. And so in very real ways, what Giant does is we're actually helping people to be able to save tremendous amounts of money, and any kind of money that they're spending with Giant, with me, is going to be a fraction of what, people problems and unhealth is actually going to cost the organization. So those are some of the ways that I discuss that whenever I'm talking to prospective clients.
Yeah, that's so true. You think about turnover, retraining, all of those things are expensive. And so if you can remedy that before it happens, you're saving money, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to make sure, because I know we're drawn to an end. I love working with consultants. We have a thriving consulting community from all over the world, like I said, that I interact with on a daily basis. We have live streams that we do just for them to be able to help them build their businesses, to get trained and equipped on it. All of that is available in our Accelerate product. So if you go to giantworldwide.com/accelerate, you can learn all about it. I would encourage you, click that blue schedule info call button. You're going to talk to a friend of mine, and they're going to tell you and share any kind of question, answer any questions you may have. And I'll tell you this as a promise: if Giant is not something that would benefit you, we will be the first one to let you know that, and we will hopefully help point you in the right direction to be able to help you. There's absolutely no pressure on those calls, but it is a fabulous system to be able to help you that's very affordable. It does come with Invincible again. So if you're intrigued about this Invincible and this team assessment, how can I use that? That comes with Accelerate, and then you just charge. There's a cost for your teams to be able to use it, but it's something that you can actually make money off of as well as a reseller, because you're one of our certified consultants and coaches. So that's the place to start to be able to do that. And then some of you are tuning in, I know, from different places. If you're not tuning in from Giant, I would invite you to come back next week. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. is when we're doing this. And as Tracy already mentioned, you can go to giant.tv/free account to sign up to actually watch this. This is only one of a multitude of live streams that we do on a daily basis free of charge, plus those thousands of videos that we talked to you about in a minute. All of that is available to you if you just sign up at giant.tv/free account. And encourage you to do that if you're tuning in from a social platform, just so that we can serve you even better. And then if you are interested in Accelerate and learning more, I encourage you to go to giantworldwide.com/accelerate and learn more on that. Otherwise, hope to be able to see you guys again next week.
That's right. And as always, we're going to keep the chat open for just a few minutes. So if you have comments or anything else you just now thought of, go ahead and put it in there and we'll try and chat with you. But thanks again for joining us this Thursday. You can join us for a live stream with our CEO and our president, which is always a good time, called The Future of Work. So whenever you're on a send, at the very top of the page, you're going to always see what our next live stream is. So join us when you can. Chris, thank you. You're always a wealth of wisdom. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. It's good to see you guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.